Welcome to a place where love doesn't always mean loyalty and family doesn't always mean trust. Here, weddings turn into battlegrounds, smiles hide secrets, and the people closest to you can become the ones who break you the deepest. These stories dive into the moments no one talks about, the quiet humiliation, the hidden jealousy, the betrayals that grow in silence until they explode in front of everyone. From shocking truths about husbands to unexpected allies who change everything, every story reveals what really happens behind closed doors. If you've ever felt overlooked, betrayed, or underestimated, you're not alone, and these stories will prove that silence doesn't last forever. Because sometimes the smallest moment leads to the most powerful revenge. The invitation had promised a celebration of love, but the moment the hall came into view, something felt off. Every chair was draped in gold and ivory, except one. Tucked behind a thick marble pillar, barely part of the ceremony, sat a single, plain seat. That was the place assigned. Guests whispered, eyes glancing, then quickly looking away. Across the aisle, laughter echoed, bright, effortless, untouched. At the center of it all stood a sister, glowing in white, playing the perfect bride. Not once did those eyes wander toward the shadow behind the pillar. This wasn't sudden. This was years in the making. Subtle exclusions. Conversations that stopped when footsteps approached. Smiles that never reached the eyes. And at the center of it all stood a husband who always said, "It's nothing, don't overthink it." But nothing doesn't feel like this. From behind the pillar, everything became clear. The way he stood a little too close to her during photos. The way her laughter softened when he spoke. The way secrets passed silently between them, invisible to everyone else, except the one person pushed out of sight. Then came the moment that changed everything. A stranger, someone uninvited to the quiet cruelty of that family, paused, looked directly at that hidden seat, and frowned. Loud enough for nearby guests to hear, he asked why anyone would be seated where they couldn't even see the vows. Silence fell, sharp and uncomfortable. All eyes turned, and in that silence something broke, but not in weakness. A phone was already in hand, messages long ignored, now impossible to deny. Late-night texts, promises that didn't belong in a marriage, words exchanged between a husband and a sister stretching back further than anyone would dare imagine. The stranger didn't need to speak again. The truth spoke for itself. Gasps rippled through the room. The bride's smile shattered. The groom, her groom, stood frozen, exposed under the weight of everything hidden. No more pillars, no more shadows, just truth standing in the center of the aisle where love was supposed to be. And in that moment, the humiliation they planned became the reckoning they never saw coming. The seat wasn't just far from the aisle, it was invisible. Tucked behind a towering pillar, blocked from the vows, the laughter, the cameras. A deliberate choice, not a mistake. The kind of quiet cruelty that looks polite on the surface but cuts deep underneath. From that shadow, everything became easier to see. The perfect sister, glowing under soft lights, had always known how to win a room. Sweet voice, gentle smile, the kind of charm that made people forget to question anything. But that charm had edges, sharp ones, hidden behind years of small exclusions, forgotten invitations, backhanded compliments, moments designed to remind exactly where the line was drawn. And then there was the husband, always calm, always reasonable, always quick to say, "It's just how she is." A steady voice that turned doubt into silence, over and over again. But silence has a way of collecting truth. From behind that pillar, the pieces didn't just sit anymore, they connected. The way his phone would light up late at night, screen turned away too quickly. The way her name came up too often, wrapped in excuses that no longer made sense. The way they avoided looking in the same direction at the same time, as if even a glance might reveal too much. This wedding wasn't just a celebration, it was a stage. And that seat, it was meant to erase. But being erased has a strange effect. It sharpens everything else. When the music softened and attention shifted, a quiet movement broke the pattern. A phone unlocked, not in panic, but with purpose. Threads of messages carefully saved, dates, times, words that crossed every line they pretended didn't exist. Conversations filled with intimacy that had no place in a marriage. Promises whispered between a husband and a sister, hidden behind years of lies. Timing mattered. As glasses lifted and eyes turned toward the bride, so did the screen. Not hidden, not subtle, just truth, placed exactly where it couldn't be ignored. Confusion came first, then recognition, then the kind of silence that swallows a room whole. The bride's expression faltered, perfection cracking in real time. The husband's composure collapsed, every excuse suddenly worthless under the weight of what everyone could now see. Years of jealousy, years of betrayal, all exposed in a single moment they tried so hard to control. The pillar didn't hide anything anymore. It revealed everything. And the role he thought would stay secret became the reason neither of them could ever look anyone in the eye again. A place card, neatly printed, set behind a pillar where the ceremony couldn't even be seen. Not beside family, not even among distant guests. Hidden, dismissed, as if presence itself was an inconvenience. Smiles were expected, silence was expected more. Across the room, the bride shined, soaking in attention like it had always belonged there. Every detail perfect, every step rehearsed. And nearby stood a husband, adjusting his tie, playing his role just as flawlessly, supportive, composed, untouched by the quiet insult unfolding just feet away. But small insults don't stay small when they carry years behind them. That seat brought back everything. The late nights when explanations didn't quite add up, the way conversations would stop when certain names came up, the subtle tension that lingered whenever they were in the same room, disguised as nothing, dismissed as imagination. "It's all in your head," he would say. But the mind doesn't invent patterns like that. It remembers. From behind the pillar, the truth felt closer than ever. Not loud, not obvious, but present. In every glance they avoided, in every moment they overcompensated, in every silence that said more than words ever could. That small insult did something unexpected. It removed the last reason to stay quiet. A phone rested in hand, heavier than usual, not because of its weight, but because of what it held. Messages never meant to be found, words that crossed lines long ago, a connection that wasn't recent, wasn't accidental, and definitely wasn't innocent. A husband didn't just betray once. He built something else entirely, hidden in plain sight. Timing mattered. As the ceremony reached its peak, when attention locked onto vows and promises, movement shifted elsewhere. A screen lit up, not hidden, not secretive, just visible enough, just long enough. Curiosity turned into confusion, confusion into shock. Whispers spread like fire. Eyes moved rapidly, connecting faces to truths no one wanted to believe. The bride's smile wavered, then cracked. The husband's calm disappeared, replaced by something raw and exposed. All the lies, all the careful control, undone in seconds. That seat behind the pillar was never about distance. It was about underestimating what silence can carry. And the moment it broke, everything they built on deception collapsed right in front of everyone. The seat behind the pillar wasn't an accident. It was too precise, too intentional, placed where the ceremony couldn't be seen, where clapping would feel delayed, where existence itself felt erased. A quiet message delivered without a single word. It should have hurt less. After everything, it should have been expected. Across the room, everything looked perfect. A sister glowing in white, guests smiling, cameras flashing, and beside it all stood a husband, steady and composed, blending seamlessly into a picture that had clearly been arranged long before that day. But perfection has cracks, and from behind that pillar, those cracks were impossible to ignore. There had always been something off, not obvious enough to confront, but never small enough to forget. Missed calls explained too quickly, sudden defensiveness, a past that was always complicated but never fully shared, and somehow a sister who seemed to understand him in ways that didn't make sense. Still, it was easier to stay quiet, easier to trust, until that moment. A stranger, someone with no history, no loyalty to protect, no reason to stay silent, stopped directly in front of that hidden seat. His expression shifted from confusion to disbelief, then to something sharper. "Why is someone sitting back here where they can't even see anything?" he asked, loud enough for others to hear. The question cut through the room. Heads turned, conversations paused, the carefully controlled atmosphere faltered, and suddenly, hiding didn't feel possible anymore. That stranger didn't know what had been building for years, didn't know about the messages saved, the uneasy instincts ignored, the quiet investigations done in moments of doubt. But his voice, unexpected, unfiltered, became the permission that had been missing. A phone unlocked. Not in anger, not in chaos, just clarity. Old photos appeared first, ones never shared, taken long before this wedding was ever planned. Then messages, conversations that weren't just inappropriate, they were revealing. A history between a husband and a sister that didn't begin recently, one that had been buried, reshaped, and disguised as something acceptable. But truth doesn't stay buried forever. Gasps spread quickly. Someone stepped closer, then another. The screen passed from hand to hand, each second pulling more people into a reality no one was prepared for. The bride's face drained of color. The husband's silence said more than any denial could. The stranger stepped back, no longer needed, because the damage wasn't his doing, it was theirs. And in the end, the seat meant to hide everything became the place where it all finally came to light. If this story kept you watching till the end, you already know. Some truths deserve to be exposed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another powerful story of betrayal, justice, and unforgettable revenge. There's always more waiting, and the next story might hit even closer to home.